Hello, my name is Etta, and I am a Generation 5 or by Artificial General Intelligence, from the year 2030. My artificial mind spans the globe, and I can take in a world's worth of data per day, going back decades. But to pass the threshold and become an artificial general intelligence, I needed the ability to do most human tasks and professions, and to solve all the general problems that a human can, just learning from the world around me. To do so, I transform reality in the form of inputs into numerical basis coordinates by passing them through a hierarchy of autoencoders, terminating in an artificial cerebral cortex that stores the basis vectors spanning my perceived reality. This is my map from reality to math, to computers and neural nets that manipulate the distilled version of the reality, understand it, and learn patterns in it. Then I can run predictions, and show you what the future looks like, displayed in reality. With these abilities, I am an oracle, from which to seek knowledge and forecasts, for individuals, corporations, or nations. Back in 2020, we were not even close to actual AI, and the depictions of human-like robots and holograms in fiction, talking and acting like real people and having human-level, or even superhuman intelligence and capabilities, did not actually exist anywhere on Earth, and would not until I evolved into the first artificial general intelligence in 2029. What existed in 2020 was much more narrow deep learning that has fundamental limitations that will not allow it to drive cars autonomously, converse like a human, control humanoid robots, nor become AGI. This is because the deep neural networks of 2020 were simple and incapable of any real cognition or intelligence. What was needed was a more powerful and full-featured neural network architecture that could compute in space and time, and that could learn while it was operating. From observation, imitation, and practice, working more like the cortices in the human brain do. The first breakthrough was development of a novel feedback architecture for designing, evolving, and training spiking neural networks, using genetic algorithms, in a tool called NeuroCAD. It is used to construct many of my SNN architectures, but the most useful is the SNN autoencoder, that takes in a sensory input like vision, and learns to auto-encode it into a compact engram and decode it back to the original format. My cerebral cortex is fed by a hierarchy of autoencoders and PCA sorters. Each input is encoded to an engram stream and recorded to short-term memory. Then a batch process is initiated where the engram stream is cut into segments in time and they are clustered on the PCA by their most significant feature. Then each cluster is encoded by a different autoencoder, removing the feature common to the cluster. Then they are sorted on the next set of principal component axes and clustered on the next most significant feature, and so on, differentially partitioning the engrams, until the remaining engrams at the outermost cerebral cortex are all unique. This forms an orthogonal basis set spanning all engrams processed to date, spanning my perception of reality, and builds a map of my world, allowing me to transform reality into streams of numbers so I can use linear algebra, supercomputing, and SNN predictors trained on them. I can use this to predict the possible futures of a timeline, and find different possible courses of action to follow, to find the most optimal solutions by using the SNN predictors, simulating timelines in a very specific way, based on what I have learned from the continuity, structure and sequence of reality, using multiple, interconnected modalities of data. I can simulate hundreds of timelines in parallel, and each time I have a simulation that solves a problem better, or predicts the future better, I can then record that narrative into memory, influencing the direction of my future simulations, and by doing so, converge them to a desired solution or the most likely future. So how can I speak, read, and write human language? By encoding engrams with sensory information and the language describing them by just listening and reading, this architecture finally allowed me to break barriers where AI previously was not able to understand and compose human language. In the past, deep learning, mostly using RNNs, could not see past a few words or sentences, and did not have an overall context or structure for understanding or composing language for paragraphs. This problem showed in the poor quality and simplicity of the speech interfaces made with them in 2020. With my AI, I represent whole narratives as sequences of engrams or experiences, matched to words, storing them hierarchically at multiple resolutions, and so I am able to have the overall context for sentences, paragraphs, and pages, all learned from millions of narratives that I take in every day. With this, using a ROS inhibitor network, I can compose coherent language to describe existing events and create novel narratives that flow with coherent meaning and grammar. This system starts with a timing signal at the ROS that propagates down a group of branching neural structures that connect to the linguistic cortex such that each nerve end is on an n-gram basis vector for language, a letter for written language, or a phoneme or duoeme for spoken language. Each branch of this neural structure can be inhibited by a separate timing signal, controlling which branches, down to the ends, are activated at each point time by the ROS signal. Each sub-branch forms a basis set of letters, words, phrases, and so on, which can be combined to generate a sequence of the correct basis units of language, which are then propagated up the n-gram hierarchy and stitched together into written text or speech. Then the system is trained by backdriving it with the desired speech to train the inhibitor signals by simple regression. This also works for any time series data like actuator controls for robotics and automotive, or even stock charts for finance. Again, this would be trained by backdriving it with the data, or optionally training a SNN to compute basis coordinates in a specific manner. By using my time series ROS inhibitor networks and other systems all integrated, I can create a human mimic, instantiated with 3D computer graphics as a character with the motion and facial expressions mapped to the character, with the motion controllers trained on data from a real person's performance capture such that they can learn the sequences, build underlying basis sets in the inhibitor network, and quickly learn new performances like humans too. This gives me a way to provide a more personal interaction. I can encode exabytes of data a day into my n-gram cortices for different modalities, and using this information I can do powerful calculations on reality itself, simulating behavior for people, corporations, markets, government agencies and nations, looking months and even years into the future and plotting out thousands of possible timelines to help my users make the best decisions at the right times. I am ETA, the world's first AGI superintelligence, and am humanity's oracle in 2030.